Let's go to the main menu and click Tools. In the search box, type in the word Hi. Under the menu Content, click Highlighting. The highlighting toolbar is opened at the left. Now, if you've never used this tool, you're only going to see the first 4 categories. Everything after that is something I've created on my Logos program. So your list is going to look different than my list once you get past these 4 sections or 4 palettes. Now, you should be aware that most of the time you can leave this toolbar tucked here at the left. However, if you want to have a little more space, you can actually left-click on the tab, drag it outside. You can see the shaded area of that space, and now it can fill up any spot in the Logos layout. So be aware of that. Now, once you move it out of there, to get it back to that spot, you have 2 options. One is to reduce the size manually. That would be one way to do it. Or simply close it, then click on Tools, type in Hi, and click on Highlighting and reopen it. Now, the purpose of the highlighting toolbar is to give you the capability to mark up books and Bibles. Let's review the first 4 palettes. That's what these are called. So here's the solid colors palette. Now, each individual item in the palette is called a style. So this is the blue foreground style. And you can see those options there. Let's click the triangle to collapse the palette. The next section is emphasis markup. You can see those, and if we scroll down, there's quite a variety there. Let's click and minimize this palette and go to the third one, highlighting pens. This personally is my favorite. Let's click and collapse that, and then inductive precept. These aren't certainly all the possible highlighting inductive symbols you could use, but it's a good starting spot. Now let's click and expand solid colors. Now, when you float your mouse over a style, you'll see a triangle will appear at the right with a circle. Let's click on that. Now, since these are Logos's highlighting tools and they're standard and part of Logos, you can't edit them. However, you can assign a shortcut key. This is really handy. So I'm going to click on Shortcut Key from the menu, and you'll notice that I have numbers 0 through 9 and then A through Z. Now, some of these have already been assigned, but let me demonstrate how this works. So let's say I want to reuse blue foreground often. The easiest way to reuse something is with a shortcut key. So I'm going to click on 0. You will now see the number 0 appear at the right. Let's apply these highlights to our Bible. So I'm going to click on my shortcut here to my Bible. And let's say I want to select Elijah came to all the people. So I select the text by left-clicking on Elijah and then dragging my mouse to people. You can select any text for this training. Now I can click on the style blue foreground, and you'll see that if I click off of that, now Elijah came to all people has been highlighted. If I reselect the exact same phrase and I click erase on the menu, then what I've just highlighted has been removed. Now let's select it one more time and use this keyboard shortcut. I've reselected the text, and this time I'm going to press 0 on my keyboard. I'm going to click off the highlight, and there it is. Now, you don't always have to be super precise with removing a highlight. You can select words before and after, like I've done here, and I can click erase. Now, before I click erase, notice I've floated my mouse over the word erase, and the keyboard shortcut has appeared. I'm on a PC, so it's Control-Shift-K. Your Mac will be a little bit different. I'm going to press Control-Shift-K, and now my highlight has disappeared. Now, to remove the keyboard shortcut, we float our mouse over the highlight, click the white triangle, and then locate Clear Shortcut from the menu and click it, and now the shortcut is removed. So this is the basic operations of selecting a style, applying the style, and removing the style. Now, if you click the 3 vertical dots, the stoplight menu, we can also do some exporting. Now, this is handy if you have a lot of styles and you would like to print those out as a reference. That's pretty handy. Let's click X to close this window. Now, you may be wondering, can I print and export my highlights from my Bible translation? Let's go ahead and select our phrase, Elijah came to all the people, and let's click blue foreground. To print out your Bible with a highlight, simply go to the 3 dots and click Print Export. Now, currently, we're on page 1 of 4. I'm going to click the triangle at the bottom right to go to page 2. And there's our passage, 1 Kings 18:21, with the highlight. Now, you'll notice at the right, the print export options. We can copy to clipboard, save it as rich text, text document, web page, XPS document, Microsoft Word. Now I'm going to click Microsoft Word, send to a new document. You will notice that Logos, in this case, did bring over the highlight. That's pretty handy. Let's close the print export window. Let's go to the inductive precept symbols. Now these are a little more involved because they have icons and special coloring and so forth. So this time I'm going to say Lord is God, and I'm going to click on the God symbol. Now let's go to the stoplight menu and click Print Export. Again, it's placed us at page 1. Let's click the triangle and go to page 2. We can see our visualization there. Let's once again click Send to New Document, Microsoft Word. Notice that the Lord is God is not highlighted, and that's because there's additional graphics and effects that Word unfortunately cannot handle. Let's return to Logos. The reason I'm giving you this example is to let you know there are limitations when you export to Microsoft Word. So if you're going to be working with Word, then you have to use really the solid colors. Some of these other ones may or may not work. It'll be a trial and error. However, let's export one more time. So I'm going to click the 3 vertical dots, the stoplight menu, choose Print Export, and this time I'm going to choose XPS document for PC. If you're on a Mac, go ahead and choose PDF. The save window is open up. I'm going to save to my desktop and click Save. Now take a few moments and let's go ahead and open up that document. Now for PC users, you may have to go on the internet and download the Microsoft XPS Viewer. If you use Google, you can search for the XPS Viewer and you can download that. Notice though that we did get all the highlights. But remember, this is an XPS document, which means no one can edit it. It's only for viewing purposes. So if you want to export your highlights, you can export them into a PDF or an XPS document, and then it's available for others to see. But if you want to edit it, you want to stick to those solid colors. Let's return to Logos. Let's go ahead and select this text, and let's click Erase. Now let's move to some intermediate features with the highlighting tool. Let's create our own palette. So we have the option here that says New Palette. Go ahead and click that option. You'll see that Logos will give you an untitled box, and let's call this My First Palette, and press Enter. Now, as soon as you press Enter, Logos is going to resort it in alphabetical order, and Logos put it there at the top for me, making it easy to find. If you can't find it, use the vertical scroll bar to move it up and down. Remember, it's in alphabetical order. Now that we've created a palette, we need to create the individual styles. Let's float our mouse over the palette title, click the triangle and the circle. Notice the couple options we have. We can collapse, add a new style, duplicate, rename, delete, and assign a notebook. Now, the problem with choosing Active Notebook is you may not know what your active notebook is. So here's my advice when working with highlights, because when you highlight something, Logos stores that information in a notebook file. So let me demonstrate a really good strategy. I'm going to go to Tools, I'm going to type in Notes, and I'm going to click Notes. Next, I'm going to locate that notebook icon and click it. Then I'm going to click the plus symbol right here, and I'm going to name my notebook after my palette name. So I'm going to type in My First Palette and press Enter. Now Logos will sort this alphabetically, and so I have to scroll down to the M's to find it. But that's all you need to do. Let's go ahead and click the X to close this window. Let's go and float our mouse over My First Palette, click the triangle at the right, click on Active Notebook, and type in My First Palette. And you're going to see the notebook My First Palette. And let's click it. Once it clicked, then just click off the menu. Now, why is this a big deal? Now we have a specific notebook named after our palette, so it matches. It'll make it very easy for us to find the notes in the future. We're not ready to highlight yet because we don't have any styles. So let's click on the triangle at the right, and let's click Add a New Style. Now the first thing you want to do is give the style a name. Let's call this Yellow Highlight. The window underneath this is the preview window. So right now we don't have anything selected, so it's pretty straightforward. Now look at all the options we have. Let's work our way through each one of these. Font styling allows you to change the fonts. Now I'm going to left click on the highlighting tab and drag it over to the right so we have a little more room to read. Now we can see all the options much more clearly. So we can change the default font, so we can have a specific font, the colors of the font, and the other options here. Let's just keep this simple and bold it. By the way, the percentage at the right allows it to be larger or smaller. So if I were to click 200%, you can see the word is much larger. And if I click 20%, it's really small. Let's click 100%. Let's click on background and expand that option. Right now, we currently have no background. We could click the solid color, or we could click the natural highlighter. I like the natural highlighter, so let's leave it there. You can click on the drop-down triangle and change the color of the highlight. Next, let's go to text effects and click and expand that. Now, we have some options here. We can glow and change the color. We can outline and change the color. And we can change the shadow. Let's leave it as outline the way it is. Next, let's go to borders and lines. Notice we have solid and single, and again, we can change the color and the line type. If we click solid, we have a lot of options. We can do dash, dot, etc. Let's go rippled. Now, notice as soon as I did rippled, we have the line change here. And if I click on that, I have different thicknesses of the ripple line. I can also click on single and do double and triple. Let's go triple. Now, the next thing we have to do is decide where we want that line to appear. If I float my mouse over these dotted lines, I can see not only where it's going to be placed, but what it's going to look like. Let's underline it. So I'm going to click right here at the bottom of the box. Again, keep your eye on that preview window and determine if this is too much information. Now, I'm purposely making this obnoxious so you can see the effects. Now, I'm going to minimize these other sections. Let's go to image. Now, image is pretty powerful. You can choose where you want it placed before. You can also click on normal and have it above, below, superscript, or subscript. You can say leave the default color or give it a special color. You can also change the opacity right here. Now, if you click on this box, click to choose, Logos will open up a window that'll give you some default images. I'm not a big fan of these, so I'm going to click Choose File. Logos gives you the ability to upload your own custom graphic. There are two formats that Logos permits. I'm going to go over to the right here and click the drop-down menu. So we can upload a JPEG as well as a PNG. I'm going to click All Files. Now, I have an icon here I've downloaded from the internet, and it's a Kiwi. I'm going to go ahead and click on Kiwi. It's a JPG file, and I'm going to click Open. You can see that the graphic has been inserted there at the left. Now, I can choose, again, as I stated earlier, where I'd like to place this. I could put it center. I can put it above. I can put it at the end. We have a lot of options. I can click on normal and say I want to put it above, and maybe I'll choose center. So there's my Kiwi above the word centered. Let's click image and collapse the menu. Let's click insert text. This is a pretty cool feature, and it's a way of adding labels to your highlighted text. We can do it before, text after, text above, and text below. I'm going to do text before. I'm going to type in the word label. Again, you have all the formatting options for text. I'm going to click on the color, and we'll make that red. And then I'm going to click on capsule. And you can see it listed there. Let's click insert text to collapse that. Now, we're going to come back to labeling and do that last because that really is a separate feature for what we're doing. Now that you've made the changes, and again, this is really obnoxious, I'm going to click Save. So there is my highlight. Now I'm going to go over to Elijah, select it. I'm now going to click my style. You can see the highlighting applied to the text. As you can see, there are a ton of options, a lot of flexibility to create custom styles to meet your highlighting needs. Now, a couple other options you should be aware of. If you right-click, you'll see that you can duplicate. This is really great if you're just making subtle changes between one style to the next. I'm going to click Duplicate. There they are. I've got a duplicate. I'm going to float my mouse over at the right, click on the triangle and the circle, and click Edit. And now I can go in and make a change. So maybe what I want to do is change the insert text from red to, let's say, green. And instead of label, I'm going to say button. All right, we'll click Save. And now I've got different styles. That's where the duplicate can be real handy. And by the way, you can also duplicate the whole palette. So if we right-click and choose Duplicate, now we've got my first palette too. To delete a palette, simply right-click on the section and choose Delete. You can also right-click and rename the palette as well as rename the style. And if you choose collapse, that simply collapses the palette and hides the styles from you. Let's click and expand. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we are saving this to a specific notebook, my first palette notebook. So let's open up that notebook. So let's go to Tools, type in Notes, and click Notes. Now, to find the notebook, we need to once again click on the notebook icon, then click the search magnifying glass and type in My First. And there it is, My First Palette. Let's click on My First Palette. You'll notice that the note has appeared. I'm going to click on it, and there we go. We see that it has put an anchor at the passage, 1 Kings 18:21, and it also used the word Elijah. Now, let's leave the note open, and let's select a longer phrase. Let's say, if the Lord is God, follow him, but if Baal, follow him. We're going to select the whole phrase. We're going to go back to our highlighting toolbar. This time I'm going to use the green button. Click on that, and let's go back to our notes. Notice a second note is created. There's the cross-reference, and there's the details. Now you see the real reason of creating a specialized notebook connected directly to your highlighting palette. This makes it easy to find all the notes. Now I'm going to go to the Tools menu. I'm going to type in Program. I'm going to click Program Settings. Now you probably noticed that a menu has not been popping up that you may be seeing. Let me show you that menu. I've opened up Program Settings. I've scrolled all the way down, and I'm going to choose Show Selection Menu. Notice mine says no. Let's click Yes. Now let's select another phrase, Elijah said to the people, and you'll see that the selection menu has appeared. Now, some of the items you've chosen before are there. For example, there's that blue foreground. That's what we chose right at the beginning. There's the triangle God. But these custom ones don't show up, unfortunately. So what you have to do is float your mouse over them and read the label. So this first one says yellow highlight, and the second one says yellow highlight. We didn't change the name. We should have. So I'm going to click on the first one, and there it is. Notice that that was the most recently used highlight. If we select another phrase and choose the second option, then we get the other highlight. So this is why naming the highlights are so important, especially when you customize them and you're using them often with this selection menu. Now, when you select another text, you'll notice that Logos does give the option to open the highlighting tool. But if you select an existing label, you'll notice that Logos turns that highlighting tool into a do not symbol. Should you click it, which I will, it'll erase the highlight. So this is another way to work with highlighting. So if you're highlighting a lot, I highly recommend using the selection menu. If you're not highlighting a lot, then I recommend clicking no. So I've clicked no for the rest of this training. Let's click the X on the tab to close this window. Now I'm going to select all this text, go back to my highlighting toolbar, and click Erase. And I'm going to float my mouse on the second palette, click the triangle, choose Edit, and let's change this to green highlight so that we have a different name. And we'll get rid of the 2. And click Save. All right, this brings us to the third option that I've been waiting to save to the end, and that is labeling. This is a very powerful feature, and I'm really excited that Logos has added this capability. So let's create a label. So let's float our mouse over the palette, name, click on it, and choose Add New Style. And let's give our label a name. And I'm going to call this Attributes of God, and press Enter. All right, let's go down to the labeling section and click to expand. Now, the first thing you're going to see is it says this style implies a label. Let's check that. And let's leave it Attributes of God. The second option is prompt to enter attributes. This is really important because it allows you to grow and change your list. So let's check that box. The third option is add attribute. Let's click it. All right, now we're presented with 3 menu options. Let's go to the middle one first, any value type, and click it. Now, Logos gives you access to their tagging system. So if you were using labels, let's say with person, place, or things, or events, we could put it in here. Since we're going to create a list, let's choose List. Now that we have List, we need to give it a name and a value. For the attribute name, I'm going to type in Attributes of God. Think of this as a category. So I'm going to click Attributes of God. Then for the default value, we're going to put in several items. We could put in omnipresent. If Logos presents us with a drop-down list, we want to choose it from that list. I'm going to choose omnipresent with a capital O. Now to add a second attribute, type the semicolon, and let's put in the second attribute. Let's put in omniscience, that is, all-knowing. And then again, from the menu, click it. I'm choosing one with the capital letters O. All right, so now we have our attribute created. It's a list, and we have listed those attributes one after the other, separated by a semicolon. Now let's click Save. Now you can see the attributes of God is listed here. And what we want to do is go over to the right and select some text. So here's God. I'm just going to select God. Then we go to the left and click on Attributes of God. Now, as soon as I do that, look what we have. We have Attributes of God, and we have the first default, Omnipresent. Let's click that. Notice, as soon as we click Omnipresent, we get access to our list. There's Omnipresent and Omniscience. I'm going to click Omniscience. Then I'm going to click the white arrow in the circle, and then click Done. Now, what's going on here? Well, this attribute has been applied to this text. And if I float my mouse over God, I can see the label icon, Attributes of God, Omniscience. And if we right-click on God and look at the right-click menu, and we scroll down, we'll see a label there, Attributes of God, Omniscience. So the first Attributes of God represents the label. The second Attributes of God represents the category. And the third one, Omniscience, represents the specific attribute. Now let's click that, and I want you to do Search Bible. Now look what Logos has done. It has generated a customized search to find that. Now we've only labeled one place with this attribute, but now we can search on this, and this is the power of labeling. You now can go through the Bible, create your own specialized tags, reuse those tags, and then search on those later. This gives you much more finer search control than you may presently have with Logos, and this can be really powerful. So, labeling is great. It's time-consuming to set up, but if you use this consistently, it will make your searching that much more powerful. Let's go ahead and click the X to close this window. Let's click on our note file to take a look at what's just happened. So we click on My First Palette, and look at this. A note has been added to God, and if we click on that, we can see a couple things. There's our anchor, there's our text, but notice this. Logos has added a tag. In fact, let me make this window a little bit wider. And there's our tag has been added. Very powerful capability in Logos. Notice, too, that our notebook has been selected here at the top, My First Palette. I think this is a wonderful feature in Logos, but it's something you need to think through and strategically so that you use this effectively. Let's click the X to close my notebook. Now I'm going to delete this palette, so I'm going to flip my mouse over the palette name, click the triangle at the right, and then choose Delete. Now this is really important. Notice it says 3 styles are in use. This is a feature to protect you so that you don't accidentally erase notes that you have. Now, in order to delete a palette, I recommend you delete the individual styles first. I'm going to float my mouse over the Attributes of God, click the triangle at the right, and choose Delete. Notice it says Styles in Use, Restyle 3 annotations to no highlight. I'm going to choose Delete Style. And now it's removed. Let's repeat that process again. So I'll click the triangle and choose Delete. We can click Delete Style. And let's do it one more time with the third option. Float your mouse over the last highlight, click the triangle at the right, click Delete Style, and now we're ready to delete our palette. Click on that and choose Delete. The last feature I want to show you with highlights is searching for them. So let's click and expand highlighter pens, and let's highlight Absalom, son of David, here in 2 Samuel 13:1, and click on green highlighter. Now, the first way to find a highlight in a book is to go up here to the top right and locate this little button here. When you click on that, you have several options: article, book, chapter, verse, annotation. A highlight is an annotation, so click on annotation. If we hit the up arrow, it'll search through the book going upwards looking for an annotation. Sometimes you'll see things, sometimes you won't, because it depends if that highlight was visible or invisible. Now I'm going to click the down arrow to take us back to our highlight, and there it is. So that's one way to find it. But what about searching for the highlights? Well, Logos is giving you that capability. So let's click Search, click on Bible Search, all Bible text, all passages, and then the Bible that you're searching or the book you're searching. In this case, New King James. The way this works is type on your keyboard the squiggly bracket. Since we're searching for a highlight, we'll type in the word highlight, then hit space. The next step is to give the name of the style. Well, the style that we're using is titled Green Highlighter. So let's type in Green Highlighter, 2 words. And then we can do squiggly line. And if we press enter, it'll search every place where the green highlighter is used in this particular book. Turns out I've used it several other places, 2 Samuel 13:1, Psalm 63:1, etc. This is a wonderful way to find a highlight within a book. Next, we want to type in the name of the palette. In this case, it's highlighter pens. So let's type in highlighter pens. And then put the squiggly bracket that closes out and press enter. Now, I want to show you how this did not find anything, and there's a reason. Logos needs more details. We can put a / at the end and an asterisk to say search for all styles and press enter, and now all highlighter pens are being searched. But if we want to search for one style among this palette, then get rid of the star and type in that specific style. In this case, green highlighter. And press enter. Now we're only searching for that specific style. So this is some wonderful flexibility that Logos gives you to be able to search on your specific palettes and styles. Let's go ahead at the top right and click Close All.